Welcome to the Unitarian Coastal Fellowship. I am Reverend Leslie Runnels, and I use she, her pronouns. We are gathering today as family and friends to pay tribute of affection and respect to Patricia Ann Templeton Harms, lovingly known as Pat. May these moments be filled with memories of Pat, our mutual friend and loved one, member of this congregation. Only a short time ago, she walked among us and blessed us with her presence, and now leaves us saddened, but also uplifted in spirit because of the many memories we have of her and the quality of her living. We now light our chalice. We light this chalice in memory of Pat Harms. We light this chalice, which transforms wax into pure light and warmth, to remind us of our own living, transforming the stuff of this world into the love and activity of our daily lives. As we remember Pat, may today bring forth transformation in ourselves from grief, healing, from memory, wholeness, and from celebration, love. Thank you. A human life is sacred. It is sacred in being born. It is sacred in its living, and it is sacred in its dying. The sorrow and joy of life weave a tapestry of our individual lives as death gathers us once again into a blessed community. To bid farewell to one we have known and loved, to search for life's deeper meanings, to seek the comfort and healing we offer one another, and to say yes to life's greatest expression, love. Love believes all things, hopes for all things, and endures all things. Love never ends. It is said that when a good woman dies, her friends gather together for many reasons. Life has touched them with a deep grief, and they need one another's company for their own comfort. Just to be together, to look in friends' faces and see the common expression of hurt takes away the loneliness of their feeling and draws their hearts together in the blessed healing that we can do for and with one another. And in this sanctuary, where many faiths which sustain us separately are coming together in harmony, which acts across all creeds and assures us of the permanence of goodness, the inspiration of dedication, the value of a serviceable life. William B. Rice says, "It is well for us to speak of those qualities which we treasured in our friend, for by speaking of them, they somehow become vital in enduring and grow into us, so that we take on what was noble and become more noble ourselves." Sometimes the one we love brings us a gift brought with money, or perhaps a product of her own hands. But sometimes she comes close and lives with us and shares our joys and sorrows as if they were her own. And the more she is a distinct person, the more she evokes our strength and the powers slumbering within us, the more we know that she is giving us the greatest gift of all, herself. And the wonderful fact is that when she dies, we don't lose what she gave us, what she brought forth in us. She gave us ourselves. This is the way a person lives after she dies. It's real. It's not ghostly or mystical or sentimental. It is a truth which we can all accept, no matter what theories we may have about an afterlife in another realm of existence. This, we say, is true. We are better people because she lived. The world is a better place because she lived. She gave us a great life, a great gift, her life, her influence, and her presence. It is good to be together. We need each other now to face and understand Pat's death. Our grief is great. But our love is stronger than even our grief. Our love for Pat, our love for each other, our love for all humanity, our love for life. Our love compels us to fashion a memorial service of celebration because we are glad that Pat lived, that she was with us for over 91 years. We can never hope to speak to all aspects of Pat's life today, and oh my goodness, I have learned so much more just this morning by looking at the pictures and the cartoons. Please spend time with them. But let us be wise enough and let us be brave enough this afternoon to honestly remember and bravely celebrate a human life, the life that was the life of Pat Harms. So we have come together. It is good, right, and fitting that we have come together because a human life is sacred in its being born, in its living, and also in its dying. And now, please rise in body or spirit for our hymn, How Great Thou Art. Let us move into silence for just a moment to settle into this space, this place, and this purpose. Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, and we will take 3 deep breaths together. Our breath will lead us into the meditation, and music will bring us out. So begin. Patricia Ann Templeton Harms. It must be the pictures. She's a cutie patootie, I tell you. She was born June 22nd, 1933 in Schleswig, Iowa, to Eunice Stammer Templeton and William Templeton. She met and married Ron Harms for a 67-year marriage, and soon the births of Shelley and Craig grew their family. Pat was always reading to her young children, and this is my favorite story that I've heard over the last 3 days. Pat saw that they were reading the backs of cereal boxes, and she printed out some poems and taped them to the backs of the boxes so that they would read poetry. What an amazing mom. I love that. Pat has always been known for her kindness and her humor. Her sense of humor was strong enough that she never needed to be mean or degrading to get a laugh. And she laughed freely and frequently, loving and enjoying life and love and relationships. She was a creative, drawing cartoons and profiles. She sent some in to Bill Keene for the family circus. Some of those that he used are here and some more in the parlor. What I get from that is that she saw humor in family, in raising children and in being married, and recognizing that these are shared experiences that other people would relate to. I hear she was also very athletic, running before running was a thing, cross-country skiing, softball, and because she was bow-legged, the boys would tease her about that. And she says, I may be bow-legged, but I can run faster than you. You tell them, Pat. She was a caucus chaplain in Iowa, right? So she gets to meet most of the Democratic presidents. She was a nurse in public health and a dental technician in the family dental practice. She was one of the first women to be on the board of the library and on the school board. And she helped build a new library in Iowa. How fantastic is that? What a life. That helps me understand how she fit into this congregation so well. Pat, I hear, was an early adopter of technology. She was online before her children were. She taught her granddaughter how to write code, and she could build websites. That's no ordinary lady. Hallelujah. Pat was keen on civic matters and justice, writing letters to the editor. I've read some, and they were thoughtful, purposeful, and direct. No sugarcoating. And the letters I saw ended with a little zing at the end. In one letter, protesting an oil pipeline expansion and protecting our beaches, she ended it with, we live in a postcard. Please let's not spoil the picture. It would appear as though her son Craig has picked up that tradition, and you might want to read his letter to the editor on March 8th and 9th of this year with a beautiful zinger at the end. Pat spent lots of time with her family, spending months with the grandchildren, Meredith and Daniel, playing badminton, going canoeing after dinner, playing outside, playing basketball, learning horse. Whatever her grandchildren wanted to do, she was game. Daniel shared that these were some of his most fond memories of her, how much time she spent with them, reading poetry, and sharing things that she loved as well. She loved cooking with them, and Meredith quickly memorized her popover recipe and when she was very young. And Pat's church friends just yesterday were talking about how much they missed her coconut macaroons. Do y'all remember them? That she would make for the annual auction. Pat and Ron ended up moving to Morehead City in 2009 to be closer to Craig and found their little house in paradise that had a dock to Calico Creek where they neighbored with otters, skimmers, dolphins, and many more feathered and furred friends. Pat had cats most of her life, and after her husband Ron died, followed by her best friend, and then by her cat Mickey, she felt the weight of grief and went to a shelter to find another companion. Pepper has been with her for 5 years. As Pat lay dying and in some discomfort, Pepper came up on the bed and cuddled her. And Pat said, "Pepper." And those were the last words she said. Pepper was at her feet when Pat died peacefully with Meredith at her side. Pepper has now found her new home with Craig, where no doubt his vet skills will come in handy. And hopefully Pepper will appreciate being an indoor cat, even though Pat was constantly saying, "I don't know how she got out." Her grandson, Daniel, and his wife, Teresa, are expecting Pat's first great-grandchild in the next month or so. The memories we share today together will be whispered to this child, that their child will always know of their great-grandmother, Patricia Ann Templeton Harms. I now invite the family forward to share your love of your mother.
I'm Pat's daughter, Shelley, and since I'm the person who has probably spent the longest time with her, I get to go first. My mother loved books and she loved to laugh, as we've heard. I have very early memories of her reading Goodnight Moon to me, and we both, when she got to Goodnight Mush, we thought that was hilarious. We read all the childhood classics together. I don't think she wanted Craig and me to watch too much television, but I know that when we were both home before we started school, I know she was very grateful for an hour of Captain Kangaroo every morning. She loved piano music. My grandma, Eunice, her mother, was a pianist, and she really loved it, and that was her favorite hymn, the Old Rugged Cross. So Mom grew up knowing that hymn, and that's one of her favorites also. When I started learning piano, Mom wanted to encourage me in every possible way, and of course I took advantage, and I soon learned that if I was practicing the piano, I did not have to do the dishes. She planned adventures for us. We went canoeing and hiking out west to the lakes in Minnesota. When I had a 6th grade Iowa history series in school, she planned an Iowa road trip where we visited all the sites. We visited Effigy Mounds and the Herbert Hoover Library and Spillville. I don't even remember all of them, but it was a great trip. We rode our bikes across the state. We were in the 2nd annual Great Bike Ride across Iowa. When I graduated and went to college, it seemed like that's when she discovered Europe. I don't know. I did get to go on a couple of those trips with her, but mostly she did that with her good friend Joyce. They were intrepid travelers. They followed literary trails through England, and they went all over. That was great. When she moved to North Carolina, she found a wonderful church family here. She and Dad both loved the dock. She continued to be involved in politics. As Reverend Reynolds said, she met all the political candidates, all the presidential candidates when she was in Iowa. They had a great life here in North Carolina. When my dad passed away a few years ago, I started spending much more time on the phone with my mother. I would call her almost every day to cheer her up. And we would laugh. She always told me that the weather here was better than in Connecticut, where I was. If it was around dinner time, she would definitely mention that I was very lucky to have a husband who cooks. I know you were going to say that too, but you never tire of hearing it. So, anyway, in our calls, we would laugh. We would have a really nice talk, and I was trying to cheer her up, but it uplifted me just as much. She would have been tickled to see you here and to know that her service is being broadcast on Zoom. I would, I wish I could talk to her about it. I wish I could show her all the lovely tributes on social media. So we were very, very lucky to have her for so long, and we just have to be grateful for that.
Good afternoon. I'm David Torrey, Shelley's husband, and she told me I needed to keep my remarks to 3 to 5 minutes, which now I understand why. As all of you, all of you have heard the jokes about mothers-in-law and how they are the bane of sons-in-law. This is absolutely not true. Pat was just a sweetheart. Sorry, I have allergy attacks, so you'll just have to put up with me. She was even-tempered. I never seen her get angry, ever. She was one of the nicest people that I've ever met. That includes Shelley. She always thought of others before herself. She made wonderful apple pies, for which I was very grateful, and cinnamon buns. They were family favorites. I'm going to skip the line about, my being a good cook and just remind Shelley that she has learned the piano so she can do the dishes. Pat was, as you heard from Reverend Leslie, she was a very accomplished woman. She was a nurse. She was a head librarian. She spent many years on the Lorenz Board of Education, and she was a formidable foe to many politicians who wanted to cut the library budget or other things. Her sharpness of wit always came out in writing, never in person. She was an avid bibliophile. She was a wonderful writer, and Shelley and Craig both inherited that trait. And she was always quick to give us a very good recommendation for a book. She had many hidden talents. I did not know about all of the cartoons that she had done. I saw a few of the Family Circus ones, but I did not see all the ones that she actually drew herself. And for some reason, she was self-conscious about her artwork, but I have to say, I think they're wonderful. That was also an excellent fisherman. She sometimes put Ron to shame. She was very competitive with target practice with the .22 pistol. She loved to travel, and she is just an absolutely fabulous person. I could not have a better mother-in-law, and we'll miss her.
Hello. I'm Meredith. I'm Pat's granddaughter. Shit. Didn't think I'd start so early. Unfortunately, I didn't inherit my grandmother's writing ability or effortless quips, but we'll see how this goes. Oh, yeah, yeah. My grandma holds an irreplaceable spot in my heart. Growing up, she took grandparent duties very seriously. She and my grandpa would spend summers with us in Norfolk, baking cinnamon rolls and apple pies together, shared her love of reading, playing kick the can, and ensuring that we ate our Brussels sprouts, which was no small feat, let me tell you. In those summers, she taught me how to write letters, so that even when she wasn't in Norfolk, we would write letters back and forth. keeping each other updated on the goings on in my school and what interesting fish or crabs Grandpa caught that week. I knew exactly which letters were hers in the stack of mail by her signature bright envelopes that would match her shirts and eclectic style. She would lovingly sign her name Gma, G-M-A, at the end of every letter, and I started to sign my name G-Daughter whenever I wrote to her. In addition to keeping older traditions alive, she was also a woman ahead of her time. When I started my running journey recently, she would often say that there weren't as many opportunities for women to run back in the day, but she did it anyway. Before women were welcome as athletes or the first woman officially ran a marathon, she would go out and run around the school track, and people would ask, "Who is that crazy lady?" But she didn't care. She encouraged me to train, and even at 90 years old, she would get on her trike and ride around the neighborhood while I would sprint back and forth, always having her as my end destination. This is a new ad, just because you, it seems, want to talk about cooking. She would remind my mother, and now me, more recently, how helpful it is to have a man who can cook. The few times that Grandpa would fry some fish or make eggs, she would encourage me to accompany her in saying how wonderful and how great it was for them to do it more often. Especially right now, I want to remember my grandmother as a very funny lady. She would brighten up any room and make any situation feel just a little bit better with her infectious wit and charm. Even in the hospital, she had the nurses rolling on the floor laughing, and she would become a favorite and made quick friends wherever she went. But her best friend and companion was her beloved cat Pepper, who, although neglected her duties sometimes, stayed at the foot of Grandma's bed until the end. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Pat's grandson, Dan. And everything that's been said so far has been true. I just wanted to talk a bit more about how truly kind and wonderful of a grandmother she was. And she needed to be very kind and very patient with both her grandchildren and the family she had, whether it was me as a 10-year-old asking to play another board game for the 5th time, or husband Ron bringing back more moths for his specimen trays, or her entire family's inexplicable obsession with birding and dragging her through mountains and forests and swamps. She always participated and supported all of us with humor and a good heart and many, many baked goods, which you've heard enough about, but I still haven't found a cinnamon roll that I can have that wasn't made by her. When she would visit in Norfolk, my favorite memories of her was when she would share the things that she truly enjoyed and found special with us. She taught me how to play horse with the basketball hoop in our driveway, or we'd get the newspaper and pull out all the comic section and leave the boring bits for the grown-ups and just read them and laugh together. She'd have on hand collections of Garfield or The Far Side that she'd read with me in between the poems and fairy tales that she loved so much, and that's really passed on to all of us in the family. It's something I hope to pass on to my children, is both her humor and her love for books and stories. She just really loved sharing the joy that she found in the world with the people around her, and that's what I'm going to miss most about her.
I'm Craig. I'm her son. And as you have heard, I have a new cat. She's very pretty. She's quite friendly on her own terms and has a lot of character. Her hobbies are scratching furniture, sneaking out of doors any chance she gets, and if you pet her too many times, she will tell you to stop. And I see at least one future cat sitter in here while I'm there's a few future cat sitters in here for my travels. Yeah, so her name is Pepper. She came into Mom's life, as Reverend Reynolds said, in Mom's annus horribilis. There's just one thing after another. And when her cat Mickey died, I decided to forget that leaving a decent interval before you get another pet. It's like, no, we are going to the shelter right now. And so we went to the shelter, sat in a room full of cats, and Pepper picked Mom out. So Pepper made a huge difference in Mom's life because providing companionship, entertainment, and being dependent on her for her to care, having some being in her life that she could care for as she became more and more dependent upon the care of others. She was always grateful and appreciative for the care that she received, but she didn't like the fact that she was needing more and more. When I put her shoes on to go outside on a wheelchair walk, she'd always say, "I used to do that for you." And I'd say, "Yes, you did. You did it well. Did I hold still?" She said, "Mostly." And when she needed these major assists to transfer from bed to wheelchair to lift, and to her lift chair, she'd complain. She'd say, "I'm such a wuss." And I'd say, "No, you're anything but that. And I hope I can be. I hope I can be that strong when it comes my time." Oh, eventually, when she couldn't provide Pepper care directly, Pepper still provided entertainment, companionship, and comfort. And you heard how right to the very end. So this morning, when the women of the family were going through some of her jewelry, they found, cat pin. And so you might notice all of us are wearing cat pins today. So my entire life, Mom's been my best listener. From listening to these inconsequential childhood discoveries to evening chats, my teenage angst years, to sitting on the back porch with a beer watching the sunset over Calico Creek. I've just always enjoyed hanging out with her. I'm really going to miss hanging out with her. Mom keeps her promises. When her grandson Daniel, he used to go by Daniel, now he's Dan, had somehow gotten wind of this concept of death and was expressing some worries about it, Mom tried to reach out and to comfort him and said, "You don't have to worry about that for a long, long time. You're young." And so Dan's response was, "But what about you, Grandma? You're old." So Mom said, "Don't you worry, Daniel. I'll dance at your wedding." And in August of 2023, she did. And apart from Dan and Teresa, of course, I think that Mom was the star of the party. So dance while we can, and I say that metaphorically because I don't actually like dancing. So kayaking, hiking, biking, all of that. Let's celebrate her life as we continue it.
And now we can make space if there are any of you in the congregation who would like to come up and share a brief little memory of Pat. It's always so wonderful to have the memory we have all of these new memories added to it, and we get a fuller memory of Pat.
I didn't prepare to do this, so I don't have any script in front of me, but I've been looking at this picture. I took this picture, and I took Pat along on so many environmental missions to save the world, and she was always with me. I loved her for that. And sometimes she got to the point where she had to bring Craig along to protect her from the escapades that we got into. And I'm the one that always drove up the price on the coconut macaroons at the auction. So, thank you, Pat.
Hi, I'm Myra, and I was a caregiver for Ron and Pat as well. And they were just sweet people. I mean, and they took me in almost as family. I mean, they treated me so nice. I felt like they took care of me more than I took care of them. But one of my fond memories was taking Ron out on the dock fishing, and I always seemed to catch something when I was with him. I wasn't much of a fisherman before, but he encouraged me and taught me a couple things about fishing. And he even had a little fall on the dock one time because he was more worried about losing a fish than anything else. So one time he took a tumble down onto the dock from the bench, but he was okay. He was still hanging on to his pole. And after his passing, Miss Pat, I had my grandson out for a visit. He's 11 years old now, but he's an avid. He loves fishing. That's one of his things that he loves to do. And I thought, where can I take him that I know he's going to catch a fish? And so I called Miss Pat and I said, do you mind if I take my grandson over to the dock to do some fishing? And Walter's his name. And he's a good fisherman. I said, do you know how to take the fish off the hook? Because, Grandma doesn't know how to do that. And he says, oh, yeah, I know how to do it. Anyway, we had the greatest time, and he caught a bunch of fish, black drum there. And the next time he came to visit, he said, can we go back to that spot again that we went to? Because he was just so excited that he could actually catch some big fish. I have some pictures I could share with you, too, of that day. But she was just very sweet and let us go over to the dock to do some fishing. She said, just make sure you watch him. She didn't want anything to happen to him. And I said, no, we will. But I have a lot of fond memories as well. And just appreciate the time that I got to spend with them.
Hi, I'm a friend of the family, and especially to Craig and I. My name is Vicki, and it was my pleasure to know Pat, and I spent some time with her and read some poetry to her, and I just thought about reading this poem today. It's by Emily Dickinson, and hope is the thing with feathers. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in eternity, in extremity, it asked a crumb of me.
My name's Helene, and I belong to this fellowship, and I love books. No matter how busy I am in my life, I spend part of the day reading books. Sometimes there's a pile of them, more than one, and I forget which one I'm supposed to read and get mixed up. But anyway, it's a real pleasure. So when I joined here, I found out that one of the members named Pat Harms started a book club. So, okay, that's up my alley. And And then I found out that not only was this a really nice woman with beautiful smile and so kind to all of us, but she was a librarian, like not just a book lover, a professional book lover. And I'm still in the book club, I still like it, but my best memories were when Pat would have us meet in her backyard. We'd drag the chairs out, put them in a circle, and we do this Unitarian thing, which we call check-in. And we would just tell each other a little bit about what was going on, which is valuable. We got to know each other more. And then we would discuss the book. And seriously, really discuss the book. And Pat was there as our resident librarian to help us along, to ask questions, to help us pick books. So I want to thank Pat for not only sharing part of her life with us, but also sharing her love of books.
There is always time to continue sharing our stories together, right? Do not let these memories fade. And thank you for sharing your memories of Pat with the rest of us. Our stories come together and make our memories more connected and more lasting. And now we will, if you will, rise in body or spirit as we sing together, "This Is My Song." We rejoice that Pat was and is a part of our lives. We shall remember her as a living, vital presence. That memory will bring refreshment to our hearts and strengthen us in times of trouble. These are reflections that we treasure, for there can be never be too much friendship in the world, too much human warmth, or too much love. If you'll please join in the chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. May the stories and love shared here go with you to the next place where you share your own stories and your own love. Go now in peace. Following the postlude, we will proceed to Greenwood Cemetery, which is just down the street and to the right. And afterwards, you can return for more coffee and tea and snacks. The family will be walking together to the cemetery, and you are welcome to follow them in any way that is most accessible for you.